all that much anymore. So I thought, let's go ahead and let's go live. That would be fun. Let's do it. Let me go here to the live stream. Go ahead and let's go live. That would be fun. Let's do it. So it's apparently not live. It's delayed. I'm going to go ahead and tweet this out. Okay. I just tweeted that out. Okay. Getting some text here. All right, where's my camera at? Where's my camera app? There's my camera app. Pulling up a chat as well. Go ahead and pull this bag up. Yes, was I entirely prepared to do this? No, I wasn't. But I just hang on a second. Go ahead. Turn that off. I wasn't entirely prepared to do this, but I thought it would be fun because there are a number of Iowa football topics to talk about. I'll leave the chat on chat overlay. Do we want to do that? Let's see. I've never done that before. Let's see how that works. And if it doesn't work, then I'll just turn it off. All right. Topics. Chad Leistico just tweeting out. When I say just tweeting out, this is Wednesday, January the 12th, 2022. Chad Leistico just tweeting out a story that he wrote in the Des Moines Register via the HawkCentral.com website, saying that Alex Padilla's dad, Mike, here's a quote from Chad's article. Nothing has changed. His mindset is still the same. Speaking of his son, Alex, relative to being at Iowa, he wants to get back to work and prepare for a successful season. Alex Padilla will return to campus on Sunday with second semester classes beginning on Tuesday. Now, of course, all of us were wondering whether or not Alex Padilla would stick around. Were some of us opining about that publicly, possibly unfairly? No, I don't think unfairly. I think it was just more logical assumptions than anything else. But I'm going to turn this off here. But here's what I think. I think Joey Labus, I don't know exactly how to pronounce it. I should know exactly how to pronounce it, but I don't. I'm usually good at the phonetic game. I mean, I was the first guy, after all, to get Kenny Awebama, his name pronounced correctly, and his mom was really appreciative of that and let me know. Shout out to Mrs. Awebama. But I don't have that. Let's call him Joey. That reminds me of a song from Concrete Blonde from back in the day, which is a really good song. But anyway, Joey, I think, and Alex Padilla, one of those two will emerge as the starter. I think that Spencer Petras is going to be your backup. In my opinion, I think Spencer already knows this. I think Spencer knows that he's probably not going to be an NFL quarterback. I could be dead wrong. Okay, I'm not saying bad things about him. But I think that I think Spencer Petras is going to wind up being the backup. And you know what? That's fine. I mean, a guy that's won a lot of games as a starting quarterback, he's serviceable. He has limitations, no doubt about it. He's going to work at those things this offseason, just like anybody else would. So I think Iowa's going to have a competent and capable backup. And I think Joey or Alex is going to win the starting position this year for the Hawkeyes. So which one will it be? I don't know. Joey turned a lot of heads in the practice squad as he captained that ship. But when you are running the practice squad, that's different than running the Iowa playbook. Unfortunately, it just seems like Iowa's offense, their playbook, their read recognition, diagnose, it just seems like it's more complicated than it is at other places. Unfortunately, it is what it is. I don't know that Iowa, maybe they dumb it down a little bit this offseason. I don't know. I think we all feel that Iowa needs to make some changes relative to their offensive scheme. I hold out zero hope for significant changes. I guess significant is a relative term, is it not? But I think the Hawkeyes need to run more out of single back formations, need to not use the fullback as much, need to just create space. But these are things I've been saying forever. I think they need to run less outside zone to the boundary side of the field. It just they don't have an offense that consistently makes the opposing team's defense pay for being overly aggressive on what they think they see. They don't. They don't. I mean, if you want to go out and run those things to set up other plays, you need to have a higher percentage of hitting home runs on those counters, those other plays. Iowa just doesn't have that. So there really isn't a great deal of penalty for opposing defenses to play Iowa honest. There's not. And Iowa, and my gosh, these dogs and they're snoring. I would just, I would overplay Iowa's tendencies all day long, because if they do beat me, if they do catch me, it's usually not for a touchdown. Heck, it's usually something that gets down into the red zone, where Iowa's offense this year for sure just fell apart, just couldn't run. So, yeah, Iowa needs to make some tweaks. Iowa needs to do some things differently. Absolutely they do. And we'll see how much that is. I mean, Kirk Ferentz is this season like 23, 24? I mean, how much change you're going to get? And it's disappointing, because I think Iowa has a really, really good team returning. On offense, obviously the quarterback situation has to play out, but I think the wide receiver position, Keegan Johnson, gamer, Brody Brecht, I think that's the guy that Iowa wants on the outside, that type of build. And you got my boy from Kansas City, whose name, Bruce. Anyway, let's just leave it at that. Dogs are throwing me off with the snoring. So very talented players right there. I think the Iowa running back room next year on the whole may be more talented than it was this year. Hey, Tyler Goodson is a great running back. But I said middle of the season this year that I think for the offensive line deficiencies that Iowa had this season, that Gavin Williams is possibly a better choice, because he would just hit the hole. Now, that doesn't mean, if Iowa had its normal offensive line, I think that Tyler Goodson was but I think that both Williamses can succeed there. And then, getting Johnson in on the recruiting front. I mean, I think the Iowa running back room is in great position. I think Tyler Linderbaum has to turn pro. I mean, he's projected as a top 15 draft pick, and the last time a center was drafted in the top 15 of the first round was maybe the 1990s or early 2000s at the earliest. He's got to go pro. But even if he leaves, which I think that he will, I think overall the offensive line is going to be better next year than this year. Davikoff giving some work at number 2 left tackle. Mason Richmond, I think, this guy hasn't been playing offensive line for all that long, and he started at left tackle for Iowa most of the season. He's going to be better. I think Connor Colby's your right tackle. The center position will be the redshirt freshman that they got late that had decommitted to Texas and came to Iowa. Is it Mislewski? And then, of course, you've got experience at guards, and Justin Britt's in there in the mix. I think that they got a chance to be better on the whole that on the offensive line. Obviously, Linderbaum is generational talent probably isn't hyperbole. I mean, he's the best center of the Ferentz era. Bruce Nelson, probably the second best at this point in time, and Nelson was a second-round draft pick. And a second-round draft pick for a center is an elite All-American level center. It's just that Linderbaum's the highest-rated center in the Pro Football Focus era. Pretty good, if you place a lot of value on Pro Football Focus. On defense, that's where I think to expect more of the same. And more of the same on defense is dominance. Riley Moss coming back. Does he move from corner to cash? Dwayne Belton is moving on to the NFL. And as is Jack Corner at safety. Xavier Wampa come on down, got an opportunity. Maybe Moss goes in and plays cash. Iowa just has seemingly an endless sea and supply of really good cornerbacks. Harris, I thought, looked really good in the bowl game. Terry Roberts is going to have an opportunity to actually be a starter and not just a superhero on special teams. So yeah, and the defensive line losing Zach Van Valkenburg, that stinks. He had a great season, great end of the year last year, great season this year. So losing him kind of stinks. But on the whole, this defensive front line is going to be really good, really good. Just why Black take the steps that everybody in the program thinks that he can take. A lot of people told me before the season that he's probably a guy that's going to be gone after his junior year. Well, that didn't happen this year, but maybe he takes those steps next year. Start of the year, a little bit dinged up. Linebackers, I mean, if Campbell comes back, which everybody assumes that he will, not that he couldn't go get paid in the NFL right now. Campbell and Benson, I mean, it's more the same. And you've got Torrey Taylor, one of the best punters in college football, returning next season. Obviously, need to make some a replacement at place kicker, which is no small thing. But I mean, this team returns a ton. They return a ton. Just try to tweak things a little bit on offense. Now, the schedule was released today. Again, a lot of things to pop up and talk about. The schedule was released today. South Dakota State, right out of the chute. I don't know. Don't know that I like that. It rhymes with North Dakota State to me. Why do you need to play that game? Just play Northern Iowa. Then Iowa State at home. The South Dakota State's at home. And then Nevada is at home. So September 3rd, September 10th, September 17th, home, and home. And then Iowa goes on the road to play Rutgers in their Big Ten opener on September the 24th before returning home on October 1st to take on the Michigan Wolverines, who may have an offense, if not on par with what we've seen in recent years from Ohio State in the conversation. Defense probably won't be as good as it was this year, but still pretty good. So, Michigan's, I mean, are they back to being Michigan of my youth? I wouldn't say that, but they certainly kicked Iowa's butt in the Big Ten championship game. And then the sixth game will be, looks like it's at Illinois. And Brett Bielema, year 2 for his program. It's not a layup. So to me, I'm looking there. I mean, 5-1 seems to be like, hey, I'll be really happy if they're 5-1 in their first 6 games. Then they get a bye on the 15th before playing at Ohio State on October 22nd. I mean, old Luke Skywalker's making a run at the Death Star. That's it. And it's unlike what Luke said. It's not just like shooting womp rats back home or taking a little trip into Tashi Station, just playing around. Winning at the Horseshoe is not something that Iowa has done very often. Is the last time Iowa won there 1990 when they stripped the emblems from their helmets? Am I forgetting something blatantly obvious? I don't know that I am. The last time Iowa played there might have been, was it 2014 when they came out in their 3 tight end set? It's just not a lot of games at Ohio Stadium. So I would chalk that one up as a loss. Then Northwestern at home. Who knows about Northwestern? I mean, one year they're winning the Big Ten West. The next year they're in last place. And the next year they're winning the Big Ten West. So let's just say you get a win over Northwestern. Then you're at Purdue. I mean, nobody has Iowa's number like Purdue does. They just don't. Jeff Brom schemes Iowa better than anyone. Thankfully, Purdue probably won't have the defense this year, like next year, like they did this year. And that amazing defensive end is going to be in the NFL. So let's say Iowa wins that. Okay. Let's try and play best case scenario. So now it's 2-3. That's 7-2 with 3 games to go. Home against Wisconsin. I mean, Wisconsin has Iowa's number until they don't. At Minnesota. And home against Nebraska. If I tell you the over-under is 8.5, what are you taking? Are you taking the over? Or are you taking the under? I don't know. I'm probably inclined to take the under, but I said the same thing about this season. I said that if you're going to bet the over-under on 8.5 this year, I said I'd take the under, and they won 10 games with arguably the worst offense on a statistical basis of the entire Kirk Ferentz era. It was the worst offense of the Kirk Ferentz era statistically prior to the bowl game. Iowa was averaging like 299.4 yards a game. They got 300 and something in the bowl game, which probably moved their overall average over 300 yards a game. So, and they went 10-2. They went 10-2. I mean, Phil Parker. I mean, can Kirk legitimately even look Phil in the eye in their meetings? I don't know. I see the washed up walk-ons made a comment that Iowa should run the spread. I hear in the chat. Let me see if that's legitimately their account. I don't want to attribute something to them that. There you go. Run the spread, they say. Okay. Maybe that's their account. Maybe it's not. Either way, I said makes me think it's not really the washed up walk-ons account, because I said run the fullback less. And if it was really them, I would think that would have caused a bit of a chat uproar. I'm sorry, Drake. I'm sorry to any fullbacks out there. I just think that Iowa needs to make offense easier, not harder. Iowa needs to not self-compress the area in which they try to attack, which they do too often. That's just me. All right, so I'm thinking 8-4. It's Kluver. So, of course, it's not Drake. Drake would have already probably knocked on my door. Kluve can probably be down for a little fullback smack. Maybe not much though. But anyway, just do something different. Just do something different. Just lie to me even. Hey, we're going to open things up. We're going to do things different. And I get to South Dakota State and I see boundary side, outside zone, and then I just throw my cards in the air. But I'm hooked for another year. Where am I going anyway? I'm not going anywhere. It's not like I'm going to turn my fandom in. No, we're family. And sometimes you don't always get along every family gathering with Uncle Larry, but you still love them. That's kind of how I'm feeling. They won 10 football games. Don't get me wrong here. They won 10 games. Oh, by the way, they did win the West. And they had a shiitake offense. It was horrible. They'll be better on offense. Statistical mathematics and outliers suggest they will, because they can't be worse than the worst over a 23-year span. It's not going to happen. How much better than the worst will they be? There's a t-shirt for you. Better than the worst. Better than the worst. I think y'all pick up what I'm putting down. I mean, that was just absolutely atrocious to watch. It's interesting. I felt more helpless as a fan watching the 2007 season and the 2012 season than I did this year. But both of those, the 2007 and 2012 seasons, maybe the difference is this. Iowa didn't have a national championship caliber defense in those 2 years. This year it did. And those are the only 2 years since 2001, as my mind's rolling through the numbers here, that Iowa hasn't gone to a bowl game, right? Since 2001. So maybe I felt those years were worse because the defense wasn't national championship caliber and bailed them out and got Iowa to a division championship. That could very well be it. Other things related to football. Gosh, there's got to be a few other. Brian Ulrich says in the chat, they lied to us against USC. Yeah, they pulled that genie out of the bottle against USC. Helped to have ISM, who scored 2 touchdowns in the NFL this year, who scored a touchdown the last game of the season. Great to see that for him. But you know what? They kind of do. ISM was a burner. He was a unique talent, but I think they've got talent in that receiver room to do some of these things. Someone asking if Sam Laporte, I don't know if Sam Laporte is going to, I have a feeling that he'll be back. I think if he comes back, he can play himself into a top 3 round pick next year. Is he a 3rd round pick this year? I don't know. I don't know enough about the other players out there. Obviously, if you're an Iowa tight end that led the team in receiving yards and receptions, first time that's happened, I think, since Alan Cross back in the 1980s. And I remember Alan. I think he played a year ahead of my man, Marv Cook. Marv and I have a lot in common. Really, the only things Marv and I probably have in common is that we're from West Branch. He was in the NFL. I wasn't. So we don't really have that in common. He, I think, has better hair than I have right now, which is disappointing because he's 4 years older than me. But anyway, shout out to former West Branch Bear and probably better known as Hawkeye and Regina head coach Marc Cook. What else football related? Is there anything else percolating relative to football since the last time we talked? The last time we talked was after the bowl game. Disappointing. Really would have loved to see this team get to the 11-win mark, but didn't happen. Anything since the bowl game? I don't think so. Basketball wise, I was going to need to start taking care of business. Going over here to kenpom.com. Iowa, again, I said that this is probably going to be the case. They're going to put themselves in a situation where they just don't have any margin for error. I think they're at that right now. This team looks like an 8, 9, 10 seed in the NCAA tournament, and that's fine. I felt coming into this year that this team's ceiling was a bubble. And so far, that's what it's kind of looking like. I'm really surprised they rank 148th in defense nationally. And that right now, if the season ended today, would be the second worst defensive effort by a Fran McCaffrey coach team. And I thought that this year had a chance to be one of their better defensive teams. I think they're a better perimeter defensive team, but it's just not showing up in the numbers. Iowa has Indiana at home on Thursday night, 8 p.m. game. That sucks. Pomeroy has them winning that. I don't know. I don't know that Iowa's going to be able to handle Jackson Davis in the interior. Then at Minnesota, at Rutgers, home against Penn State. Pomeroy has them winning all 4 of those. Indiana at home, at Minnesota, at Rutgers, and home against Penn State. He has them winning all 4 of those and has Iowa 11-9 in the Big Ten. Iowa's not winning all 4 of those. I bet they go 2-2 at best. I'm not down on them. I'm not hating them. Just calling it like I see it. Listen, Kenyon Murray is probably the best all-around talent that I've seen at Iowa in my lifetime. All around. Now, Roy Marble was really, really good too. But Murray just does things that I've not seen an Iowa player do. I'm not saying they're not fun to watch at times, but I think right now this team just smells an awful lot like a bubble. An awful lot like a bubble. I think that that's probably going to do it. Is there anything else football related? The recruiting season now just happens in December. Which is great, by the way, for now. Who knows until the other schools like the SEC that don't like that they get that changed. National championship game breakdown. I didn't watch 1 second. Didn't even tune in for a commercial. Didn't watch it at all. I played video games, and I don't feel like I missed anything. I'm sure, maybe it was a great game. I did see Saban's, comments after the game relative to his 2 players. That's great. That's fine. I just remember Nick Saban throwing the kid in the Capital One Bowl from 2005 under the bus minutes before he left LSU to go take the Miami Dolphins job that he knew he was taking and making millions of dollars, and threw that kid under the bus. Hey, maybe Nick, like all of us, lives and learns. Let's hope that that's the case. I'm just not a big Nick Saban fan. Intentional slip there. That's it. I'm going to keep rambling. Yes, Quinn, we talked about the Padilla coming back to start things out. Drew Harney asks, joining late, realistic chance to grab a quarterback in the transfer portal? I just don't see it happening. I got a note from somebody, okay? I'm not saying this is a report, and don't y'all go out and say John Miller's reporting this. I will say I got a note from someone who through the years has had some pretty reliable information and told me 2 names that reached out to Iowa to gauge their interest on whether or not they'd be willing to take a transfer quarterback. One of them, Iowa has played against in the past 3 seasons. But I don't know that I buy that one because, he wound up going to where his girlfriend is. I think you can figure that one out. Anyway, I just don't think Iowa's going to take anybody in the transfer portal. I just don't see Kirk doing that. You? That just is so un-Kirk. It's so un-Iowa family for me to see that playing out. You see if there's any Brian Ulrich thoughts on Iowa hoops attendance issues. 8 o'clock games suck. 8 o'clock games suck. Oh, and by the way, may have missed this, there still is a global pandemic taking place. Now, I'm not going to turn Fauci here and play virologist, even though amongst my family and friends, I am kind of a big deal because I've read probably at least 5 or 6 books on pandemics in my life prior to this. I've always been fascinated by them. No longer have that fascination. I think that Omicron may be the swan song before this goes from pandemic to endemic, and we have flu, cold, and COVID-19 season. But that's just my take. The number of infections that we have right now relative to the number of deaths is much different than the number of infections to death 1 year ago. Thankfully, in the favor of fewer deaths. Obviously, if you have comorbidities, you need to be careful. But if you don't have comorbidities, you're probably going to be okay. My 19-year-old daughter had COVID last week. Had her upstairs in the house, licking handles around the house and breathing in the air. Not a damn thing. Maybe I'm just built that way. Sometimes there's a man. Sorry, I'm getting a little slap happy here. Rebounding. Torque Mason said it's the rebounding. They're better defensively per possession, but they give too many extra possessions. Well done, Torque. That's why we have you here, to keep me on track. Nick Corda says, John, I noticed in the bowl that Iowa repeatedly had 2 or more receivers in the same spot throwing lane. That's not something I see other teams have going on. You live long enough. You live long enough in a situation where a microphone's in front of your face. And I've been doing post-game call-in shows and or post-game reaction podcasts since 2003. Kluve, you got a long way to go to catch that streak, but I'm glad to see you're on it. 2003, how old was little Kluve at that point in time? 2003, 18. Little Kluve was probably what, like 9, 8? You do this enough, you say things multiple times if you're still the fan of the same team with the same coach. I've been complaining about Iowa's route trees since the mid-2000s, and it ain't changing. Iowa's bootleg waggle pass play. Got a route deep, got a route medium, got a route underneath. Oftentimes the route underneath is a fullback. Sorry, fullbacks. I just shouldn't be you. I mean, if the, oh gosh, the fullback's uncovered in the flat. Oh no. No. The medium to deep routes oftentimes are within 5 yards of one another. One guy can cover 2 spaces. I see too much of that from Iowa's offense. Just reimagine it. Don't scrap it. You don't have to scrap it. Tweak here, tweak there. You don't have to scrap it. All right. I think we covered some topics there. Hey, thanks for all of you for jumping on, for some of you for throwing those questions in. This was an impromptu thing, lasted 30 minutes. I think it went well. I've been wanting to do something, another podcast, another one of these for a while. I'm still planning on doing these, until the next football season starts up. I can't tell you the frequency. I'm not as disciplined as the washed up walk-ons are. No, I'm not. I'm just not that disciplined. Fact of the matter is there's other things going on. I think there are for them too. And everybody has a lot of things going on, but we are still going to talk. And I still intend to do this next year because I'm still having fun doing it. And as long as y'all are willing to listen to it, I'll probably be around to say things and some that I wind up regretting after a point in time. As always, appreciate it. We'll talk soon.